All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind. But we're going to have a show.
And, thank you. The Friday recorded audience is my favorite recorded. Folks, please, if you would, please remain standing. Please, yes. Oh, all right. Now, please take your seats. It's so exciting to be here with my best friends in the world who I pay to be here. Albert is...
Albert, thank you.
Yes, our producer on air. Kim is
Kim, how are you?
News and producer off air. It is an exciting time in America just to see the country dismantled so quickly and really be on the brink in so many different ways. There is no group I would rather watch that with than this group here. Thank you, everyone. Yes. Big E61 sends us a message this morning. Very much looking forward to the 1-2 punch of Jim Avila and Michael Shure. That's right, in hour 2, the return of Jim Avila, the White House correspondent, and, won the Peabody Award, won the Murrow Award, won multiple Emmys. He was the senior national correspondent at ABC News. He joins us in hour 2. Let's get it on. And I have the mailbag this morning. There's no more mailbag, Albert. You don't understand this. We boomers, when we were growing up, we had a guy or a woman, and they were walking through the snow sometimes and the rain or whatever, up to the house, and they would put the little letters into the slot. Those people still exist, but most of the business is done via email. It's the Americana aspect of the Postal Service is fading. And then, of course, there's an aggressive effort to rub out the Postal Service. And we know about that, and we've reported on it here. Happy Friday, Pi Day, says Harry Magnum with a $5 super chat. When pies are free. Now, it is Pi Day. I wonder if you can explain it, Kim, because you're good with explaining things.
Albert, thank you.
No, Kim, please.
Kim, how are you?
Yeah,
it's
okay.
a nerdy math day.
Yeah.
It's pi, 3.14, right?
I see.
And
Sure.
it goes on. Yeah. And
Right.
so this is March 14th, 314,
I see.
314. So it's Pi Day.
I get it. Okay. Now, is there some commensurate offering for the other kind of pie, not the mathematical kind, but the kind that you eat?
Usually there are, on Pi Day, there are pie sales, like pizza pies.
Oh, sure.
You can
of
get
course.
a deal.
Yeah. No, that's very cool. Well, I love that. What is this? You get this?
This looks like there's like assorted actual pie contests throughout the country
on
as well.
Pi Day. I love
On
that.
Pi Day.
I love that.
For the non-math people out there.
Yeah. Mark, what changed to allow Jim Avila back? And the Postal Service is like when I went to school. Uphill both ways through 6 feet of snow. Yeah. Everybody, all of us went through school through knee-deep snow, and we had to walk miles. Avila is back because now his restrictions that were associated with the station that he was working for aren't in effect anymore, so he's able to join us. Now, I have, speaking of the mail and the mailbag and the email, I do have
I've received a lot of positive letters.
Yeah, okay, I've gotten this isn't positive, and it does involve you, Kim.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Jolene is her name.
Jolene, like the song?
She may say it that way. I don't know how she says it, but she spells it not like the song. She spells it Jolene, L-A-N-E.
Oh, okay. All right.
But you could still Jolene, when you start, you can say it like that. Love your show, she says. This is a great way to start an email to any show. If you're ever writing a show, start with love your show. Then you get to, of course, the but. But I wish you could do more of this, but you don't do enough of that, but you don't spend enough time on this, but I wish you would. Love your show. And yes, here comes the but. She says she's called her. She's called herself out on the butt.
Jolene.
Jolene says, I assume Kim puts time every day to give us some news.
Yeah.
And I think it's a little rude.
Oh.
Wait a minute.
What?
I think it's a little rude.
They pay me a lot of money for having attitude.
It's a little rude to keep running out of time, and Kim doesn't get to do her news.
Oh, yeah.
So either just stop the news portion altogether.
What? Oh, sad.
Well, why are you yelling?
It's just what she's suggesting. So just stop the news portion altogether or find time every day for Kim, please. And that's with 2 exclamation points.
Why are you yelling?
By the way, I have listened to KGO since the 70s. Just one of your more silent listeners. Would love to contribute, but Social Security, etc. With Trump in the picture, scary for some of us folks.
Yeah.
Anyway, all the best. Jolene.
So should we just cancel news? That's it? No more news?
I'd
I'd rather have
Good day, sir.
some news than no news, right?
Get nothing.
I think she's telling me that's a hardship that you have to prepare the news and that we don't get to it some days.
Oh, no.
She wants it done.
All right.
Albert, this is an odd thing to talk about in front of everybody, but, Kim does the news.
Yeah.
We don't get to it most days. The rest of the show is mostly me talking to people. Kim basically makes a marginal contribution. I mean, I could see just getting rid of Kim completely on the basis of Jolene's email. I'm sorry, Kim, to have this conversation in front of you.
Maybe it's time to let me go.
This is awkward, but
I love it when you're angry.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's. I don't know.
Can you let him finish, sir?
Yeah, maybe it. Now, my personal love of Kim prevents me from DXing her from the show, from DQing her, from what do you call it? Throwing her out, getting rid of her, giving her the hi ho, this deep 6. But Jolene has me really focusing on the fact that we really don't get to her news much, Albert. And I'm just saying, well, Jolene. Oh, Kim's not on the show anymore because of you. Jolene.
That's not fake. That's real.
This was worth it just to hear you sing, honestly.
The news isn't on the Mark Thompson Show because of Jolene. Maybe Kim could start the show. I didn't catch that. It was funny, though, I know. 5 minutes early with the news. It's sort of a warm-up. Hey, that's an idea.
Mm-hmm.
Kim has trouble making the 11 a.m. On the West Coast.
Wait, what?
Let me tell you. Yeah. I
blame you.
All right. Well, maybe it's my fault. I didn't write that. We love Kim. Don't worry. Please look at this. Everybody's so. Ted says this isn't funny.
Chit.
Yeah, there's a chit. Yeah. Kim is great. Of course she's great. Tuned in yesterday just in time for Kim's news and overtime. Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep the news, says Chico Shar. Yeah. No, we'll keep it. Yeah. We love Jolene. I love that you felt comfortable enough to write and offer a thought about the show. But you do point out the fact that we do run out of time.
Dillette says I should ask for a raise now.
Oh my God! Because she couldn't make more than she already makes. I mean,
wait,
my God.
what? That's not true at all.
I am telling you what. I mean,
Who is having that conversation?
I'll have it. I'd be happy to. But I got a really good,
Kim has been ripping us off.
Kim, that's right. She's not even doing her news half the time, and you guys, yeah.
I've received a lot of positive letters.
What other positive letters did we get, Albert? This is an email from RJ saying, oh, this is really interesting. Just showing how advertising produces results. I got some of the cold brew from Coachella Valley Coffee for a catering at a high-end Bay Area law firm. They wanted an iced coffee bar. Response was tremendous to the Coachella Valley product.
Nice.
Wow. Thanks for the tip. Much respect as always. And there it is, Coachella Valley Medium Roast. And their cold brew is spectacular. It's not just cold coffee. As I've told you, there are really some complex tasting notes in there. I love the stuff at Coachella Valley Coffee, and I encourage you to get some.
That's worth going to the meeting for. Imagine the reaction. You go to what is it, a meeting or some type of luncheon? You're just expecting the standard stuff, and you take a sip of that, and you're like, wow.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's the real deal. So, drink up, all you Coachella Valley Coffee people, and it is so good. That is the Ocotillo Espresso, which you can find at Coachella Valley Coffee, and feel free to use our discount, 10% off. I mean, it is a boutique roastery, so you definitely want to, I think, avail yourself of the 10% discount. It's all hand roasted, and there are teas and coffees, all the rest. You know the story, most of regular viewers, but those of you who are new, it's the best coffee I've ever tasted. So check it out, CoachellaValleyCoffee.com, and when you check out, again, use Mark T, and you get 10% off anything from the website. So teas, coffees, if you get merch, whatever they have, you get 10% off. Anyway.
Since we're doing news, no, we're not doing news anymore. It's good that you did the Coachella Valley Coffee blurb here.
They sponsored Kim's News. I'll have to send them a note saying, I got some other good emails, and one was a sad one. I mean, this is, in a sense, you'll see.
I've received a lot of positive letters.
Fitting that on the night of a blood moon and rain, says Peter Newton, we lose a great friend, Congressman Grijalva. Grijalva, I think is the way he says
Grijalva,
it. Grijalva, yeah. Please discuss it with Michael Shure, his legacy. A mutual friend of Steve Cohen says, I'm going to weep now. That's from Peter, who is, our reporter in Arizona. I would encourage you, Kim, because I'm going to have to leave, probably just a few minutes into the second hour.
Yeah.
So I'll ask you to maybe pass that on to them and get some reaction, because he was a progressive politician, loved in his district, I think loved beyond his district, and a real voice of clarity, and not afraid, not cowed by this sort of Trumpian revolution that's going on. So, and the last thing I'll say before I get into some heavier news, I was going to just acknowledge, I got this new setup here,
This
Kim.
is good. Don't doge, Kim.
Yeah, that's great. It is very dogy.
It's all fun and games until someone gets doged.
And someone gets doged, as Kim has found out. Now
this is my last day on the Mark Thompson Show. This is it.
No, that's just not true, Kim. You know that you're loved here. You're loved here.
Surf and Tumbleweed says, we will go to the Supreme Court and force you to bring Kim back with pay. There you go.
Well, speaking of the courts, we'll get to that. I mean, it's really been an interesting week, because the courts have pushed back on Donald Trump, but as you know, and the doginess that is Donald Trump, but as you know, that isn't the end of things. So we'll get to that in just a moment. I wanted to acknowledge a couple of new PayPalers. We are PayPal, Patreon, and then, of course, through the live chats that you do in Super Chat and Super Sticker. These are ways you support this show. We're like an NPR PBS model. And by the way, just speaking of NPR and PBS, NPR really may go away. It's been threatened in many past administrations, but I'll tell you, for the first time, I think there's really a kind of threat to NPR that they haven't seen before. I mean, this administration is pretty committed to getting rid of them. Yeah. We'll see, but the general proposition is that NPR is sort of an enemy of the right and of this administration, and to that extent, they want to. I'm trying to get this going at the same time, and I can't. This may have to wait. And to that extent, they may face a very tough struggle. So let me just take a moment and offer up some Patreon acknowledgments, and everybody, Patreon and PayPal. And I will get the PayPal people. The great thing about PayPal is they let you leave a message with us. But Lucy is a $5 a month member. Thank you. Marie, also a $5 a month community member at Patreon. A $10 a month Patreon community member is Lorelei.
We couldn't do the show without people that are kicking in every month like that.
Oh my God! And Sharon just edited her contribution from $5 a month to $10 a month. So really, really cool. And that's not all. There were more. Every time somebody does something on Patreon, I get a click here, and I look right into it. And I try to get right back to you. And it is the case that I go into PayPal as well. I just don't get the click. And as I've mentioned, Patreon, if you are going to be part of it, go through the web. Do not go through the App Store, because the App Stores take 30%, no matter who you're contributing to. Forget about our show. Just, it's just the way they do business. I mentioned Marie. I also will mention that several of you got back to me with references on Social Security and some potential guests. I will follow up on those. We are going to, book others on Medicare, on Medicaid, and on Social Security issues. So that is all stuff that's happening. M. Taylor, thank you. $8 a month member. How about Natalie? $20 a month.
Nice.
On Patreon. So cool. Jackie is a $5 a month member. $5 a month member from Jay. This all makes a difference, as you know. And Jackie mentioned that she's been listening since our KGO days. KGO was the radio station from which we came.
Mm-hmm.
And now she says, I'm happy to be part of the dialogue here. I love the show, and I spread the word. And I just joined, she says, Eden Area Indivisible. It's in Hayward and Castro Valley. That's in the San Francisco Bay Area. So it's Hayward, Castro Valley, San Leandro, and San Lorenzo. I'm hoping for the Indivisible person to come on the show. The Indivisible, I think, group is a political group. I think this is a politically active group that basically I'm imagining now. She goes, I don't know much about it. I just got the email. But just based on what she's saying, I'm thinking it's a group of citizens who feel they want to mobilize. They want to do something, So I will try to reach out to it's just one of a few of these indivisible groups that are in the Bay Area, and maybe there is a template for that nationwide. Maybe it comes from things nationwide. So, and my son in Sweden listens to you also. Wow. Hey, shout out to Sweden. Thank you. Yeah. Anyway, our email address is themarkthompsonshow@gmail.com. Longtime listener, first time super chatter. Michael Klein with $3.14. What up, Michael? themarkthompsonshow@gmail.com. It all matters. So we really do appreciate it. Well, we got through the ugly part, which was Kim's news and whether there was time for it. So now Joan Hollywood with a $10 super chat says, I've been listening to your show since you first joined KGO. Thanks for keeping me sane and entertained. And yes, Hollywood is my real last name.
Nice.
It's Irish. Google it. Wow. Is that right?
Google it.
I love that.
I didn't know
Joan
Hollywood is
Hollywood.
Irish.
Big shout out. Big shout
cool.
out to Joan Hollywood. Yeah. It does sound like a pseudonym, but it's the real thing. Anyway, that's our email address, themarkthompsonshow@gmail.com. Dave says, Kim, Albert, Tony, Matt, and Mark, I'm going to need an email explaining what you did for the company last week.
Yeah. Get right
Don't
on
talk
that.
to me that way.
Yeah, I am really taking. Love your show, says Jessica Del Carlo with a $20 super chat. Listener going back to KGO days in San Francisco. What up, Jessica? Thank you. Really, really cool. Appreciate everybody's support and your interaction. It makes a big difference in the way you share videos. That helps us grow this audience. So thank you. All right. So
The Mark Thompson Show.
it's been a very busy week. A lot of it we will get to. This is V. Richard says we got our first order of Coachella Valley coffee and also love it.
Nice.
So cool. Glad you love it. It is delicious. I am so grateful for the sponsorship that we have with them, and I'm grateful that they're on the show. And as I told you before, I was drinking their coffee before they even joined this show. So it's an interesting state of affairs when you realize that the President of the United States and those around the President of the United States are really looking for ways to get around the courts. Now, I mean, I get the fact that the courts are vexing to a lot of administrations. I mean, they are basically standing in the way of a lot of agenda items of different administrations, not just this one. This one, of course, came in so hot and so recklessly, the way government is being dismantled and essentially a sledgehammer is being taken to so many agencies and so many to support structures that Americans count on. You had to think that, well, at some point, this is going to end up in a courtroom, and that's exactly what's happened. I mean, the court challenges have been large in number, and the court turning back these administration decisions, they've been large in number, those decisions as well. So in other words, the agenda is being blunted by the court. And it doesn't matter what court you're talking about, the agenda is being blunted. So to the issue today, Trump is wanting the Supreme Court to allow him to pursue these agenda items, many of them, regardless of what they are. I mean, the many agenda items that have been turned back. I mean, for example, the discharge of tens of thousands of federal workers, his decision on birthright citizenship, I mean, and so on, right? So one by one, these various proclamations and policies have been turned back by judges, and it's not just one judge, as I say, it's many. And so he's going to his judges, his concierge judges, and that's the Supreme Court, and saying, I want you to curb those judges' power to block my policies. So this is an emergency appeal, and this he's hanging on birthright citizenship. But again, it could appeal whatever decision might be made from Scotus. It could apply to any of these other policies, right? So, I mean, the birthright citizenship thing, we've talked about it on the show, it seems almost like it's a gimme, it's a layup. I mean, there's just no way that any court is going to be good with it. It's right there in the Constitution. Now, I mean, you can amend the Constitution if you don't like it, but you can't, by executive order, somehow ignore it or overturn it. So Trump is asking the Supreme Court to eliminate this key tool that lower courts have used to block various aspects of his agenda. It's an emergency appeal, as I say, came in just yesterday, asking the justices to rein in or shelve 3 nationwide injunctions, and these are the injunctions that those lower court judges have issued against his birthright citizenship order to end it. But obviously, this will affect other decisions. Now, there have been many of these injunctions that have been issued by judges in the early moves that Trump has made. He wanted to end DEI programs and to cut federal funds for medical research, and these are things that have ended up in court, and there have been injunctions to prevent it. But Trump's acting Solicitor General, this is from Politico, Sarah Harris, argued to the Supreme Court that the federal district judges have no authority to issue sweeping orders that block policies nationwide. Instead, Trump's Solicitor General suggests an injunction should apply only in the geographic district where the judge is located, or only to the specific individuals or groups that sued. Quote, years of experience, this is what she wrote to the court, years of experience have shown that the executive branch cannot properly perform its functions if any judge anywhere can enjoin every presidential action everywhere. She says that contending along these lines, while the administration of both parties have lamented this practice, she says it has reached epidemic proportions. Lower judges issued 15 nationwide blocks of the Trump administration actions in February, although in some instances, the same policy, she says, was blocked by multiple judges. That 1 month total, okay, in February, the 15, outstrips the 14 nationwide injunctions issued against the federal government in the first 3 years of President Joe Biden's term, she writes. And this is kind of the depends on what the judge is saying kind of thing, right?
So
I
is
didn't
this
see, yeah, go ahead.
is this a situation where if San Francisco, the county of San Francisco, or a region in California is responsible for filing the lawsuit, or a judge covering a certain region, if they file an injunction against one of Trump's executive orders to stop it while they consider it in the courts, it would only stop it in that region and not nationwide.
That's what she wants.
Mm-hmm.
Look, this 14th Amendment, the citizenship to all thing, is just so open and shut. And again, so that's why you've seen it in Maryland and Massachusetts and in Washington, D.C. These injunctions have just been quickly issued. I think it's worth noting that when a judge in Texas, which is where they bring all of their stuff, when they want an injunction, the right goes to Texas, right? Because those are right-wing judges.
Sure.
When they want a judge to block, anybody remember? Maybe women remember? Mifepristone.
Mm-hmm.
They go to that judge in Texas. That injunction is issued, and mifepristone cannot be doled out, sold, certainly not mailed. That was kind of the where the shoe pinched for a while. So it's interesting to me always when, in this case, Trump, but it could be any chief executive, has a problem, or any legislator has a problem with this system that we have when it comes to judges being able to enjoin some kind of edict. They rule it illegal, and they have a problem with it unless it serves their interests, in which case they're all about it. And that's really what we have here with this Trump situation. And again, I just think he's also picked a very difficult one for the Supreme Court to shimmy around. And that's exactly what David Katz was saying yesterday, right, Kim? He was essentially saying the same thing.
On birthright citizenship.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a test, though, for the Supreme Court. If they rule against birthright citizenship, and I would argue even if they change the way that these injunctions work in the United States, it really is another indicator that they are bought and paid for, and that they will do whatever he wants. And
well,
now,
I mean,
and then if we don't already know, we will.
I mean, I would just say this, that, I've already really declared that we're in the middle of a soft coup. Mm-hmm. I call it a soft coup because it's not a violent coup, but there is a complete takeover of the legislature, right, by the Trump administration that has demanded fealty to him and his administration, but I'd also say has put the fear of recrimination and retribution into all of them, and they believe it. And so they're rah-rah and saying whatever. We're going to play a video for you in a moment, up against a lot of pushback in their district, and they still are behind the president. But what's happening now is that fear that they feel is joined by a fear of violence that judges are experiencing. And don't take my word for it, there was actually an email and a warning issued to judges suggesting that this environment right now in which they are operating, the judicial system, is fraught with issues related to recriminatory activity, which might even include violence. Here it is. Judges threatened with impeachment bombs for ruling against Trump agenda. Impeachment threats against judges and sometimes physical threats to their safety comprise the independence of the judiciary, experts warn. So here it is. I mean, this has been written about, as I say, many have been advised of this. The federal marshals and the marshals program, which is designed to protect judges, they're on high alert as a result of this. Federal judges who have ruled against the Trump administration this year are confronting a wave of threats, potentially compromising their personal safety and the independence of the judiciary. The sister of Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett, I mean, again, she's a right-winger, Amy Coney Barrett, but she didn't sing from the hymnal most recently up at the Supreme Court level. She got, the sister did, a bomb threat earlier this month, and lower court judges who hit pause on some of President Trump's efforts to dismantle federal agencies and programs have been singled out on social media. And they've been singled out, by the way, by Elon Musk. Republican lawmakers close to the president even have proposed impeachment proceedings against a few of those judges who serve for life. Elon Musk, they note here, who oversees the Department of Government Efficiency, whatever that is, it's just an excuse to do a lot of damage, making cuts to federal agencies, repeatedly posting on social media about impeaching judges who delay or block parts of Trump's agenda, which he's attending to. Efforts to undermine the judiciary come at the same time the Trump administration has moved to fire lawyers inside the Justice Department and the Pentagon and penalize private law firms who represented clients that Trump does not like. This is something we spoke about yesterday with former federal prosecutor David Katz. Judge Richard Sullivan of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit said in his lifetime, 4 federal judges have been killed in retaliation for their work on the bench. This is not hypothetical, Sullivan, who leads a judicial conference panel on security issues, told reporters. The Judicial Conference is a representative body of federal judges that frames policies for the courts. It's real, he said. It happened before. We have to be certain that it doesn't happen again. So these attacks on judges are coming now at a very early stage in the legal process, even before the Supreme Court weighs in. And these appeals that go through the judicial system and up to the Supreme Court, they're touched by a lot of different judges. And so if you can sufficiently scare these judges, either fear of impeachment or fear of violence, as I say, you can change the course of history. Only 15 federal judges have faced impeachment, mostly for allegations of wrongdoing like bribery, corruption, or perjury in the past couple of centuries. But a law professor at Georgetown said this: the more that people like Elon Musk are putting on the wall the idea that it's appropriate to attack these judges for nothing more than ruling against the federal government, the more that we're normalizing what really are, in the main, very serious threats to judicial independence. So these attempts to intimidate federal judges, they're real. And I'd suggest they could be effective. We've seen this group do things that are unprecedented, and I'd suggest that this would fall into that category. And as I say, for me, it would complete the soft coup. Right now, the judiciary is really the last chance we have to perhaps constrain the soft coup. But as I see it, we're endangered right now because I think these judges are human beings, just as these legislators are human beings and these federal workers are, and they're people who can be intimidated, who can be scared, who have families, who are like, I don't need this type thing. Mm-hmm. I was just looking at this I don't quite get this, not showing in my YouTube feed again. I don't know what that is. Anyway, yeah, Banana Republic for real. Thank you. I think that's right, Jose. It is feeling very Banana Republic-y. So then we get to what's happening in Washington. I mean, I think Trump will be rebuffed at the Supreme Court level. I mean, it would be extraordinary, as Kim says, it would be extraordinary. But nonetheless, we'll watch it. I mean, he is petitioning heavily for the Supreme Court to intercede on his behalf. Now to Washington, and we had
the Mark Thompson Show.
Kim and Albert, tell me, in the community section of our YouTube channel, we have a poll as to whether or not the Democrats should advance this GOP funding bill. What is it? Give me the wording again on it, Albert, and tell me where it is, please.
It's in the community section of our YouTube
but
page, or if you're
tell me where
subscribed to
it
the show,
stands.
it'll appear in your subscription.
I see. Okay, if you subscribe. Okay, cool. But tell me, I'm sorry, but what I meant was tell me where it is. I meant tell me where the voting is. Can you tell me, like, what people are saying?
So it's should the Democrats allow the government to shut down, or will it backfire and they pay the price for it? And it's an overwhelming yes, 86%.
So the Democrats should let the government shut down, is what they're saying.
Albert, thank you.
Yeah. So Chuck Schumer is the minority leader, and he made an announcement yesterday evening, that he is going to vote to advance this Republican legislation funding the government and keeping it open. And I think if you watch the breaking news today, Kim, we'll see how things proceed today. But he said, while the continuing resolution is very bad, the potential for a shutdown has consequences for America that are much, much worse. And he views allowing Donald Trump to take even more power with a government that's closed down, is what he means, is a far worse option than keeping the government open. Under a shutdown, Trump and Elon Musk would have carte blanche to destroy vital government services at a significantly faster rate than they can right now, he said. He did not urge other Democrats to vote for the bill, but it was a clear signal for his colleagues to essentially, hold your nose and vote to keep it open. But there is pushback, The Democrats debated for 3 straight days about whether to accept this bill that would allow Trump to continue dismantling the government as he sees fit, or withhold support, resulting in a shutdown. But that would give the Trump administration power to decide which federal agencies remain open or closed, and perhaps for good. And that was one of the things that I was mentioning to you the other day, because I think the problem here is when you close down government, the executive now can decide who's an essential worker, who is not, and the dismantling that's begun could really be ramped up in an even worse way. Now, what AOC is suggesting is that, listen, come back, House of Representatives, and let's put together a 30-day extension, and we'll vote on that, and we'll keep the government open that way. But that's not right now on the table. It's really a bit of damned if you do, damned if you don't. There are nearly a dozen Senate Democrats who are opposed to the bill and made that clear. One of them is Senator Mark Kelly. He's the guy who Musk called a traitor or something. He's like the portrait of a patriot, and somehow Musk, who is this guy who just showed up to America in time to become a billionaire and wreck government, that he's calling Mark Kelly a traitor is laughable were it not so serious. But anyway, Mark Kelly says, I cannot vote for the Republican plan to give unchecked power to Donald Trump and Elon Musk. I cannot give permission for inflation-causing tariffs and firing thousands of veterans, things that are already having devastating effects on Arizonans and Americans. So you'll talk about this with Jim Avila and Michael Shure in the next hour, Kim.
Yeah.
But it is a problem both ways. And it would be the workaround to get a 30-day extension, as AOC has suggested. But again, that's not on the table right now. It's right now, either you give us this bill, which keeps the government open, or you close the government down and you risk the real wrecking of government at the hands of this crew. So, again, I feel as though the Democrats have strength and they have power in the minority right now, but I don't think either option is particularly good. I really don't. So, in any case, that's what's happening. We'll discuss it more in the second hour, and the vote is today. There was a reaction when
The Mark Thompson Show.
When J.D. Vance went to the Kennedy Center, he got a great reaction from the crowd. He was booed. Albert has the video for you.
He apparently has said in the past he doesn't understand why people would go to the symphony and listen to classical music. He just doesn't get that. And there he is at the symphony.
Maybe it's to appease some funder. This is J.D. Vance. He's in the box. And he is being booed. Yeah. He is just a heartbeat away from the presidency. Not the most popular guy in some circles, you know. I mean, if you go to Kid Rock's house, he's a big hit. So, you know.
He just got booed on the way to Vermont on a ski trip too, right? He's not doing very well.
Those Vermontans, I love them, or whatever they call themselves. They're out there with signs in the cold. They lined the entire vacation route with all of these different protest signs. I also wanted to mention, as long as we were talking about people that were booed, there was not only booing, but there was a true chewing out of North Carolina Congressman Chuck Edwards at his town hall in Asheville. Albert, play a little bit of this, that this is what Republicans are facing from their constituencies on an increasingly frequent basis.
I was proud to vote recently for the House budget resolution, which provides the framework.
That's Edwards speaking.
Yep. And you wonder why folks don't want to do these town halls. Yeah.
You represent us all. You got nothing to say but lie. You're lying. I'm a veteran. You don't give a about me. You don't get the duty for us. You don't get to take away our rights. You don't get to take our rights. Get off here. You don't get to do it. Come on, you guys.
So that's a veteran. He describes himself as a veteran who was angry. I think if he is a veteran, he deserves to be angry because veteran benefits and the Veterans Administration is being gutted. It's an affront to everyone who has served honorably in this country. That guy apparently one of them, and there's going to be more of that. And so the GOP, rather than actually trying to in any way, you know, soften what is happening, because they can't stand up to Trump or Musk, they're saying don't do the town halls. It's like somebody who's trying to lose weight but can't, you know, and just keeps gaining weight. They go, well, I got an idea. Let's just not weigh ourselves anymore. That's a good idea. No, that's a good right.
Get rid of the scale. I'm struck though because the line from Republicans is, oh, they're all paid activists. They're somehow paid to be there. They're not really your constituents. They're not really people that are unhappy in your district. But if you saw that audience, it looks like almost the entire place is booing and up in arms.
Sure.
Though, I mean, how many people are you going to pay to go out there?
Yeah.
No, people are angry. People are pissed off.
Yeah.
And you see it and you feel it.
They're not going to be able to run that. These are all, you know, Democratic plants. They're not going to be able to run that for long. Where was the meeting? As I said, it was Asheville, North Carolina, Rick. That's where the meeting was. The president also smack-talking yesterday the European Union, calling them nasty. He did it because, you know, this is the time you want to do it with the head of NATO, Secretary General, Mark Rutte, right next to him. He complained about the steep tariff on U.S.-made cars in Europe and a court justice of the European Union decision in September that required tech giants Apple and Google to pay billions in fines over antitrust issues. Trump said, we sell no cars to Europe. I mean, virtually no cars. And they sell millions of cars to us. They don't take our agriculture. We take their agriculture. It's like a one-way street with them. The European Union is very, very, very nasty, he said. Yeah. I'll tell you something. You continue to roll back these EPA regulations and USDA regulations on pesticides and the toxins that can be in our food, and you won't be able to export anything to the EU, and I don't care what your trade arrangement is. You know, I, of course, grew up in this country and loved this country and had this sense, as maybe many of us did, this myth of American exceptionalism. Everything's better here. Our food is cleaner. Our water is cleaner. Our air is cleaner. Then I went to Europe.
Yeah.
And this just in, they don't even accept a lot of our food because it's got so much in the way of pesticides on it. So this idea somehow that, you know, they don't take this, they don't take that. Yeah, there are a lot of reasons apart from just money that have to do with what's going on with the European Union. But anyway, he definitely views the European Union as nasty and has put us on an adversarial footing with the European Union, and in fact has upped the tariffs now on wine and champagne from Europe. It is an extraordinary thing that you could put a 200% tariff on wine, champagne, and other alcohol imported from the European Union. This, if the European Union bloc doesn't remove a tariff on U.S. whiskey that has been. But this is what happens with these tariffs. There are retaliatory tariffs. Now, you know, again, the first shot was fired by the U.S., but the U.S. is coming back even harder. And again, the U.S. has a lot of leverage here. We're a massive economy. We're a massive military. We have an oversized place at the table. But we began this, we began it with our allies and closest friends, Canada and Mexico. And the odd thing is there was really no issue with the Canadian or Mexican trade agreement. It was forged by Donald Trump back in 2018. So he's going back on his own trade agreement. Anyway, now we're in the middle of it, and the latest is, you know, you put a tariff on our whiskey, we'll put a tariff on your champagne and wine, and it's off to the races. And finally, on the Panama Canal, Trump has made this order. He's looking for ideas from the Pentagon for unfettered access to the Panama Canal. He called on the military to provide options to ensure that the U.S. has full access to the Panama Canal. Now, again, this feels like smack talk to me. Like he likes these announcements and he likes flexes. So I thought the tariffs were kind of that. They were a flex, but then he would pull them back. But then he does it because he feels, I think, I'm guessing, but he sees in the news that people are going, oh, this is what he does. He does he indicates he's going to do it, then he takes it back. And so then he does it. And, you know, now you're hearing that Wall Street is unhappy. You've seen what's happened in the markets. And as a result, Trump is hearing that his Wall Street pals are unhappy. And what does he do? He doesn't roll it back. He doubles down. So he's saying, you know, get used to it. It's going to be like this. And so it is with Panama. I don't know if this is a flex or if he's really planning some kind of military incursion into Panama. But he said that he wants to take back the Panama Canal. And this is a military action that would be, I think it would be, it would be incredibly destabilizing. But it apparently is something that he really is looking into. And he has asked the Pentagon to put together a strategy for taking the Panama Canal. Panama controls the Panama Canal. So it's not the Chinese, even though the Chinese are, you know, a part of this conversation all the time. But the reality is it is not the Chinese who control the Panama Canal, as you are all aware. And I'd say, you know, this is just one more thing in this pile of wildly destabilizing aspects to this administration. It's scary. So it is possible, according to ABC News, and then I'll get to Florida, that Trump is going to invoke Wartime Alien Enemies Act to carry out mass deportations. That's the headline here. Expected to invoke Wartime Alien Enemies Act to carry out mass deportation. Now, first, the Alien Enemies Act is a wartime law that gives the president, because in wartime, the president gets a lot of additional power. That's one of the reasons he's declared this national emergency that allows for him to exercise this tariff control. He wouldn't have it under normal conditions. This mass deportation would be possible under that act now, because you essentially are declaring a group of people citizens of an enemy nation, and so they can be deported. Now, the one thing I would say about this, and there are probably many things that we can say and will say in the weeks ahead, but we talked about this when he was on the campaign stump. There's not the infrastructure for these mass deportations that he wants to do. It's a horrifying thing, because it's going to be done the same way that Doge is doing their efficiency evaluations. In other words, they're not evaluating anything. They're just getting rid of people. I mean, if they can see you, they get rid of you. It will be haphazard and chaotic. We know that because everything they do is haphazard and chaotic. So it will destroy lives. It will be an awful thing. And yet he may get away with it. And it'll be done, again, in this horribly cruel and chaotic way. But there isn't the infrastructure for mass deportations on the kind of level that Trump is dreaming of them. You can't deport these millions and millions of people using any kind of existing infrastructure. There just isn't the infrastructure to do it. Plus, it's going to be incredibly expensive. I'm leaving aside the morality and the practicality and the ridiculousness of it all. But again, what we heard was we're going to start with those who are the criminal elements in our country who have gotten here and have been tolerated and somehow have escaped the legal situations that might have led to their deportation. We're forgetting that's what he was saying. Now he's pretty much just going after anybody he wants. I think it's a really troubling situation. But there have been discussions inside the administration to invoke this Alien Enemies Act, and we'll see if it really happens. But that's the very latest on what's happening in Trump land. The last thing I would say is that Trump Tower is the site of protests. As you know, there were 100 arrested in New York. They're in Trump Tower. Now, they're protesting in support of the pro-Palestinian activist who has been targeted by the Trump administration. And these are Jewish groups that are inside Trump Tower, in and around Trump Tower. And those are the groups that are leading these efforts. So do you have that video, Albert, maybe just for a quick second, and then we'll move to Florida. But I think it's in there. But anyway, it's interesting that this became kind of ugly, and they got rid of a lot of those protesters. If you don't have it, don't worry about it. I'll just round out that stuff about the Palestinian protesters and now the Jewish pushback, that it is protesters protesting on behalf of the pro-Palestinian protester. Columbia, the students who occupied Hamilton Hall in that protest, they have been suspended. Columbia University saying students who occupied the campus Hamilton Hall during the pro-Palestinian protest last spring have been expelled and suspended for several years or had their degrees temporarily revoked.
I didn't know they could do that.
Nor did I.
Wow.
The sanctions were issued by the University Judicial Board just yesterday. And remember, the feds have pulled, is it 400 million? Something ridiculous. I think it's a big number. Have pulled federal monies from Columbia in essentially retaliating against Columbia for, I say retaliating, it's punishing them for the way in which pro-Palestinian protesters were able to occupy Hamilton Hall and detain Jewish students. And I mean, it was really ugly on the Columbia campus in New York. And essentially this administration, the one now that we're talking about, the Trump administration, has, I mean, distinguishing it because it was the Biden administration that was in charge when this was all going down. They have now said, we're pulling our federal monies out of Columbia to send a message that you haven't made it safe for Jewish students there. So that's the latest on that, just to round that out. It will hurt that school. It will. I mean, there's a lot of money that they count on. And that's, I think, why they're playing ball and doing what they're doing.
I will say this. There's been a second student protester who was involved in that pro-Palestinian protest at Columbia, arrested. by federal immigration officials. So the person was taken into custody for allegedly overstaying her student visa. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's a little bit of what's going on in the world, and I will, obviously, we're talking to Avila and Shure coming up, and we'll bring this up to them as well. Smash the like button like a boss, and let's continue here. Florida next.
The Mark Thompson Show.
It was great. I loved it.
How would you handle this? We could try ignoring it, sir.
Morning.
You cannot say you love your country.
Where are my weed smokers at?
Stay at home and get baked.
Right on. It's our Friday show. And by the way, Albert, do you want to tell all the boys and girls that we have Friday Mark's Madness coming up? It's coming up beginning, it'll be Tuesday officially that it starts.
It'll be Wednesday, actually. Wednesday is at Albert Day. So we'll start it on Wednesday, but then on Monday, we will have a play-in for the last drop that'll make it into the tournament. Then you'll have all day Monday and Tuesday to fill out those brackets.
Okay, great. So this weekend, Albert and I are working on videos that explain everything. We're also working out the seating. And so when Monday rolls around, we'll do when Monday rolls around, we do the play-in. Is that what you were just saying?
Yeah, Monday we'll have the play-in. We will be recording something over the weekend, so I might upload a podcast and let everyone know with a guide of all the drops that's included with names. So we'll play the drop. We'll say the name of the drop. So when you're filling out your bracket and you're a little lost, you could refer to that podcast to fill out the brackets. Yeah.
So if you're just joining us, this is something that we did on the radio. We've done it for years now, and so we just brought it over here and kind of kept it. And we have drops on the show, and those drops are things that people have grown to like or loathe.
It was great. I loved it.
So you will have, like, that would be a drop, and
it was wrong, it was stupid, and I'm trying to be a better person.
And there you go. That would be a drop. So those two would play off against each other, and you'd vote for one or the other. To participate, you don't have to subscribe to the channel, do you, Albert? I think you can just fill out you can just fill out a bracket, right?
Yeah, you can just fill out a bracket. If you want to participate in the voting, that'll happen in just the community tab or in your subscription boxes this year. No more live chat voting. We're going to keep that option for the actual show.
Yeah, so the daily voting as to what drop moves on to the next round, that will be done in the community section of this channel. And so subscribe, and you'll be able to get access to the community level and that's it's free. Like, the whole thing's free, but we want you to be able to participate in any way you want, and it's fun. And if you don't know what's going on, join me, because I've been doing it years and I barely know what's going on. So we will have fun. Where is the community tab? Beth Farmer wants to know. Well, if you go into the channel, right, Albert will show you where the community tab is. He's got a whole video, but if you go into the community, if you go into the channel, you'll see videos, shorts, and if you keep going over, you'll see community, and there it is. You'll find it. If you knock around on the channel, you'll see it right there on YouTube. Okay. Where is the community tab? Asked Randy. I think there was something in the past that needed to use it and never could find it. Oh, wow, Albert.
Yeah, he's got his work cut out for him.
Albert is going to show you right now where it is. So that's our channel, the Mark Thompson Show channel. Okay.
It might be a little different because this is our channel. So it's saying
yours might look different, but there it is. You see posts.
Right there, posts. And you can see the poll that we just spoke about not too long ago.
Yeah, so under posts it would be. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I'd have to double check a different channel because this is our channel.
Yeah, so I mean, yours might be might
be
look
different. Check posts or check the community tab. I'll double check right now.
I think if you click on the coffee cup icon, all of those menu tabs come up, and the community tab is under that.
I see. Okay, cool. Good. All right, I have I've got Michael Shure waiting, and with Avila coming up in just can we do a turbo of Florida?
Yep, we can.
Albert?
Let me
this is it. We'll do a turbo version. We'll blast through it. This is Friday Fabulous Florida.
It's time for Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
A look at the weirdest stories from our weirdest state.
It happened. A Florida man finds a live gator in his kitchen.
It's just like the Open.
It is just like the Open. Go ahead and roll it, Albert. If you're able to see, here he is.
But I can't believe it happened. But it did.
Paul Quinn will never forget what happened to him Sunday morning.
It's one of those things you don't think that it'll happen to you.
Instead of doing his usual routine, checking his email, he was being checked out by a gator inside his home.
I'm like, is that really an alligator in my living room or in the kitchen area here? And then he saw me and he started running. I'm like, oh crap, I got to deal with this today.
Paul was by himself at the time. He called 911 and waited 50 minutes for FWC to arrive and remove the gator. He kept his distance and quickly pulled out his
sorry, the
phone.
audio is kind of low here, but basically what happened is he left his door open in his house.
But
and
how
the
did he get
gator
inside?
The
snuck
Quinns
in
tell me that
there
they usually leave their doors open
his
to get some
surprise.
extra breath inside. The alligator wanted to make itself at home, busting through this screen and causing a commotion.
Paul's wife, Mary Jo, rushed home to see if he was okay. He wasn't hurt, but had a few questions.
Why did it come to your house, MJ? And two, how much did animal control charge to take it away? I would have been ticked if there'd been a bill.
So the alligator grabbed the chair by the leg when the guy had him, was trying to wrestle him, get him out of here.
There was no bill, but the gator left a mark on this chair and left the Quinns a souvenir, 2 of his teeth.
That made me nervous.
Now we got to get all the alligator slime out of the house.
But this won't stop the Quinns from what Florida has to offer.
I don't want to have a fear of an alligator just walking up our front walk into our foyer again. I can't live like that. I live in Florida. I love living here. I'm not leaving.
Reporting in Gateway.
Maybe just don't leave the door open would be my advice. I mean, who was the genius who thought of leaving the door open?
Gulf Coast News.
I mean, to be fair, they left the screen door closed, but I guess you just punched right through it. Yeah.
It's like me saying, oh gosh, I'm so upset about earthquakes. I live in California.
Yeah.
You live in Florida. You have alligators.
Yeah.
I mean, you could probably make a tape, a back-to-back 5-minute long or longer tape of all the 911 calls of people saying there's an alligator in my kitchen. So what do you expect?
Which is actually not a bad idea. We should do that sometime. It was a close call when a truck crashed through the wall of a Florida woman's bedroom, nearly hitting her. Cops are still looking for the driver.
Oh, no.
She was asked what happened. She doesn't remember what happened, is what her daughter is saying. But the car came crashing in. Everything kind of, it felt like a big earthquake or like a tornado hit, she said. She just walked from the bedroom into the restroom, which is right behind the other side of the bed on the back wall. And this car came crashing through. Now the family is helping her, put Humpty Dumpty back together again. It's not pretty, Albert, is it? My gosh, a poor, sweet lady.
Where'd the driver go?
What happened to the driver, Albert? Any update?
No further update.
No further update. And finally, a Florida woman coming out for pizza delivery meets an 8-foot alligator. Come on, Albert has really hit the ball with alligators today.
That's right.
Yeah, because this is a simple pizza delivery. And apparently, it turned into a confrontation with an alligator. The video is here. We'll quickly, here you go. Went out the front door to retrieve her pizza. She is being told that there is an alligator under the car. You can see it there in highlight. And the neighbor called her to say, hey, before you go get the pizza, there is an alligator under this car. And I guess she didn't get the message.
Uh-oh.
And she went back in. You can see her getting the pizza there. Wow. Another close call. Alligator close call. Trappers got the gator, but no pizza, they say. So you can see the trappers working there to retrieve the gator. Pizza and gator. What will be the favorite? Pizza and gator? Car crashes through bedroom? Or alligator in the kitchen? We have to pick one. Go ahead, Kim.
I'm delighted about the gator-heavy nature of Friday Fabulous Florida. I'm going with the alligator in my kitchen. The fact that the lady was upset about the alligator in her kitchen and was not able to leave Florida, but still couldn't believe that there was a gator in her kitchen and it left teeth behind. Come on, gator kitchen.
I think that's true, Albert. It's gator in the kitchen, don't you think?
Yeah, I think so. Overwhelmingly, yes. Kitchen gator is actually number one in the chat right now.
No. Yeah, I think it's close. I think it's closer. The pizza delivery with there's the sense of jeopardy, I think, brings that into another area. But wouldn't want to be a DoorDasher in Florida. Yeah, you're not kidding. Yeah, great point. Anyway, that is it for me as well. It's Gator in the Kitchen, and that's Florida for today.
This has been Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
Y'all come back now here.
The Mark Thompson Show.
It's our Friday show, and I am so excited that the Murrow Award winner, the Peabody Award winner, the multiple Emmy Award-winning former White House correspondent for ABC News, Jim Avila, who is the keeper of last year's winner of Mark's Madness drop.
There's always been in this country 30 to 35% idiots.
That's right. And Jim's drop won the tournament, won the whole dance. And Jim rejoins us today. Jim Avila, everybody. Wow, this is really cool. Hey, Jim Avila.
Good morning or afternoon. I think I have to revise that to maybe 51%.
Somebody in the chat, maybe multiple people, made that same point. And this guy you are joined by has forgotten more about politics than most of us will ever know. He's Michael Shure. Thank you, Michael, for joining us as well. I'm with you for just a couple of minutes. I'd like to just get things kicked off, and then I've got to jam over to KFI Radio in Los Angeles, but Kim is going to pick up on things. What I wanted to ask you about first, what's happening and the kind of showdown that Democrats are having in Congress with this keeping the government open or shutting the government down, and this imperfect bill that sits there to continue to fund the government. Can you give me some thoughts on that, Avila? It seems as though there are no good choices here.
Yeah, and I think that's what Schumer, the Senate Minority Leader, was saying, is that he doesn't like either choice, and I kind of agree that shutting down the government, which would hurt people who don't deserve to be hurt, such as Social Security people who get money from the government, other things like that, the parks, everything would shut down, and that hurts the citizens. And I think that's the reasoning of Schumer. Now, the progressive side of the Democratic Party, wants to set everything on fire and close it all down. But what Schumer's point is, if you shut it down, Trump has more power than he has now, and can just start doing things without any, because using his executive powers. So, my analysis of it is that they're two bad choices, and it's the only choice to make.
Yeah, that does seem, Michael, it is true that that Trump, in a situation in which the government really was closed down, he could be even more aggressive about some of the moves that he's been making.
Right, but I also say, how much more aggressive can he be? We've seen enough aggression, and that's what a lot of Democrats are saying now. And I think this is going to be a little bit of an inflection point for Democrats. I think that there is the young guard of Democrats, and by young, I mean younger. I mean not octogenarian, not Schumer-esque, who are going to, down the road, point to what happened this week with this shutdown as a turning point for their party and their caucuses, as to say that we can't just acquiesce, we can't just be the ones who nod our heads and get upset. A lot of Democrats criticize Susan Collins for saying that she has real concern and then voting with the Republicans. This is a lot like that. And while Jim's right, and it's probably would give more strength to Trump, but it's March of 2025, and this is going to be decided in the election of 2026 of how the Congress behaves. And I think a lot of Democrats are going to look at this and say, you know what, we should have been stronger. We need stronger, different, not go along to get along type of leadership, even if it works in our disfavor a little bit for a while.
And here's the problem, though, I see with this, Michael, is that overall, as you say, there's a battle for the Democratic Party between the progressive younger wing and the more traditional Democrats. But while I believe, and I wish the progressives would have more control, the reality is the Democrats lost the election because they didn't connect with middle America, with the blue collar voting folks who went for Trump because they thought that we were too concerned, or the Democrats were too concerned with cultural issues and what to call people, whether it's he, she, or them, and they made that very strong. So I think that the dilemma for the Democratic Party is, yes, I wish the progressives would win, but if the progressives would win, would they win an election? And I'm not sure they would. I think that the middle class, the middle of the political spectrum, will reject those progressive things. So that's the dilemma that they're in right now.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. But I don't think this is necessarily progressive versus moderate. I think this is old school thinking versus new thinking, and so I think that one of the things they want to see out of the Democrats is some toughness as well. And toughness doesn't have to be just the squad. It doesn't have to be progressive. It can be standing up to the Republicans. And this is a Republican bill that made it out of the Republican House with near unanimous, save for one member, I think, near unanimous Democratic resistance. And I think that should be mirrored in some way, because I think there is success in numbers. What Nancy Pelosi was able to do, like her or not, she was able to keep her caucus together against Trump in his first term. And I think that going to what Schumer's doing is more about sort of old school politics versus new school. And that's what I mean. I don't necessarily mean, that it has to do with liberal or progressive or otherwise. And I don't disagree that they lost for a variety of reasons. But I do think that some toughness against Trump when you're not going to win anyway is important.
No, that's interesting too. I mean, you do show kind of a united front and a resistance, if you will. I'm gonna run out, and Kim picks it up from here. Go ahead, Kim.
I got
Thanks,
my
guys.
Thank you. It's nice to have you all back. I have Michael Shure in a car, and Jim Avila. Looks like you're relaxing in bed. That's nice.
Yeah, I'm in my comfortable bedroom. I
beautiful.
I missed you guys because for a while, because I went back to work, and then when I went back to work about 2 months ago, I got sick, and so I've been in the hospital and just am now still recovering at home.
Oh, thank goodness. I'm so glad to see your face and so glad to have you back, and I hope the recovery continues.
Yeah, me too.
Earlier on the show, I don't know if either of you saw the very volatile town hall video where a man who claimed to be a vet got really, really angry, and the entire crowd was booing. And this is one of many scenes across the country where people are, it seems, getting angry. Now, Republicans will say, oh, they're paid activists. But the more and more we see of town halls in little teeny tiny towns across the country, yeah, there they are. Listen to the boos.
And you wonder why folks don't want to do these town halls.
You represent us all. You got nothing to say but lie. You're lying. I'm a veteran and you don't give a about me.
And the guy eventually gets walked out of the venue. But this is the kind of anger we're seeing. And I wonder if this is how we affect change. Do these angry voters even matter to lawmakers that are really kind of bending to the MAGA will? I'll take it from you, Michael Shure.
Yeah, I mean, so what I would say to that is that, first of all, to say that they were paid activists can be there and be Democrats and not be paid. I mean, this guy certainly doesn't. And many of the people that were at the Georgia town hall as well, I don't know that they're paid. I think that there are people who want to give a piece of their mind to a Republican member of Congress who they may not have supported. So the notion that they're Republican, I would say, is probably inaccurate, but I don't know. But that they're paid is far more inaccurate, because there are people whose passions are really sort of have been, I would say, sparked by what has happened in the first couple of months of this administration, nearly couple of months. And so does it have an effect? I don't know. I mean, it becomes circus-like. The Republicans will say, oh, these are plants, these are paid plants. And so it becomes easy for them to dismiss a lot of this. This isn't, if you're in a deep purple district, maybe it matters a little bit. But what it just shows is that there has to be a forum for very frustrated Democrats to speak out. And what's better than a town hall in its most colloquial sense?
Anything to add on that one, Mr. Avila?
Well, I've been, Rachel Maddow every night shows these videos, and they're trying to build resistance here by showing these and showing that you can resist and there are ways to do it. And I'm not sure how effective it is. First of all, I'm not sure this is the issue that's going to unite anybody. This laying off of all these people. Most of the country believes that the government is too fat, and that there should be that there are people who should find other jobs. So, I mean, there is that. And I'm not sure this is the issue that resonates across the country. It resonates among the people in Washington and the people who are getting laid off. But for America in general, who look at this and they say, maybe we should be cutting back on government. So, I'm not sure how effective the Democrats are being. They've got to pick an issue that really resonates across the voting public.
What is that issue?
Well, that's a good question, Kim. And it's obviously not immigration, because most people believe that, unfortunately, most people are support the mass deportation, the polls show. So, what I think, in my mind, what I think is the main issue is dictatorship. And that the Democrats need to make it clear that what Trump is trying to do, both in foreign policy and in domestic policy, is become a king, and that only his word matters. And so what Congress needs to do is, yes, stand up. I don't believe they should shut down the government, but in every other thing they can, they need to object and resist what Donald Trump is doing as far as the way he governs. So in my mind, the issue is Donald Trump as the president and what he wants to do. And we need to make that the issue.
That's an awfully hard case to make, because I would think that, I mean, for you and I, we see it, right? But there are people across middle America who think that's a hysterical type of view. Oh, this is America. We don't have a king. He's not trying to be the king. I mean, they'll just say, no, it's all fine. Everything's okay. I think that's a bit of a hard case to make across the board. What do you think, Michael Shure?
Well, let me just add one thing, and then I'm sorry, Michael. Is that I think his friendship with Putin and now making Russia our main ally is unilateral on Trump's part. Nobody else wants that. And I think that issue, along with his autocratic and oligarchy, which Bernie Sanders is talking about all the time, is in fact an issue that resonates. Michael?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that on balance, Jim's right. That the making Trump an issue it worked in 2016, right? The people were just, people were polled. They were just tired of the chaos, and these 2 months have been unbelievably chaotic. The other thing is the issues that Trump said he would address. He has addressed them, but he's worsened them, right? I mean,
The economy,
if the price
the economy was going to fix in a day, right? And then
and if the price of eggs was why Donald Trump won, and I'm not sure it was, but it certainly was galvanizing. I think that he's proven that he doesn't care about it, and B, isn't going to be able to change how much the price of eggs is right now. And so I do think that the politics of constituencies is important. So as you're cutting government, you're also cutting veterans benefits, and veterans benefits are super important, and they are swing voters generally, many of them, and so I do think that there is something to be said. First of all, you can't not respond just because it may not be politically prudent or it may not be as advantageous as you think. So I do think having these responses and doing these things is fairly important. I agree that shutting down the government isn't necessarily a solution. It never has been, and it's always a question. And I sense Schumer, who's got a good nose for politics, would know who is going to get blamed for shutting down the government. But I also think the Democrats are in a what have we got to lose position right now, and sometimes you have to take advantage of that and throw it back in these people's faces in politics on both sides. And to that end, I'm not so sure. Look, I think the reason the election was lost was from what Jim was saying earlier. I think the ad that said that Kamala Harris is for they them, Donald Trump is for you. That was it. I mean, that is why Donald Trump won, and that sort of marginalized politics of identity, which was foisted upon the Democrats much more so than they wanted or than they were heralding it by a lot. But I do think you have to do a little bit of everything here, and the politics of constituency is very, very important.
Can we move to the issue of free speech and getting rid of or detaining with the effort to deport people here legally because of what seems to me their opinion, which doesn't match the opinion in the White House? People who are in America, who have spoken out, who are now being penalized for that. We have a second protester who's now been arrested as well. The administration saying that she had her student visa terminated in 2022 because she had attendance issues at the university she was attending. But she is now, her name is Lika Cordia, taken into custody for allegedly overstaying her student visa, but she was part of these protests. So is this what we've come to in America, where here on American soil, you can't speak your mind?
Well, I think that goes to the dictator's point I'm making, is that Trump is overreaching, and unless they can prove that these two protesters are actually connected or funding Hamas, and they need to prove that, then they're overstepping and overreaching. To be able to protest is an American virtue, and it really, I think most Americans believe. Even Jewish Americans were protesting at Trump Tower the other day.
Yeah,
because of these arrests, and I think most Americans believe you should be able to speak your mind. If they're contributing to a terrorist organization, or if they're somehow involved in a terrorist organization, they need to prove. The government needs to prove that, and then, yes, you can deport those folks in my mind. But they haven't proven that, and they've only thrown that up against the wall, and I haven't seen any evidence of it yet at all.
And rhetorical support is far different from any other kind of support. And under the First Amendment, but the administration does feel that they have a legal standing here, because when you get a student visa or a green card, even you're sort of here at the pleasure of the country, and the country can, if they take issue with things that you are doing, has a little bit more leeway than I thought they had before I read into this a little bit. That said, none of this seems to rise to deportation or revocation of a student visa. And that there are, as Jim said, these are the hallmarks of any kind of dictatorship, where you do things because you want to do them and not worry about whether or not you're allowed to do them.
Yeah, what scares me, Kim, is overall, and the reason why I say this dictatorship Trump issue is the issue that Democrats should be hammering, is that it's foreign to all of us to see something like this happening. This is an issue that resonates with Americans. We overthrew a king, and we don't want a king. And Donald Trump wants to act like a king, and he is changing government that forever, and doing things that are changing the structure of the Constitution. He's eliminated the Congress as a factor, and so that he can do whatever he wants. He's stacked the Supreme Court, so that he can do whatever he wants. And I think that that's an overreach. And if the Democrats were to make that their main issue, that resonates among Middle America, where some of these other things don't. Look, I wasn't here to talk about why Kamala Harris lost. I think she lost because she didn't resonate with Middle America that way she was, but that wasn't necessarily her fault. I think there's a great deal of sexism and racism still in this country, and that she had to overcome that and could not. And so when it was close, there's people of Latino Americans, Latinos do have trouble. Latino men have trouble voting for an African American woman. So the Democratic Party needs to find a way to reach those people. And what the Republicans did successfully was put her in a category of they and them and not us. Yep. And because she was a person of color and a woman. So I think, we've got to think about that as Democrats. You have to think about whether or not, what kind of candidate emerges this time. Should it be maybe it should be, despite the fact that I'd love to see AOC is not going to win across the country. And we got to figure out a way to find somebody who can win across the country.
I was reading this article that says a lot of people are pinning their hopes on the midterm elections. Can we take back the Senate? Can we take back the House? But that maybe we shouldn't be getting our hopes up, because a lot of these districts across America have been changed that will now be leaning in favor of Republicans, no matter what kind of candidate is put forth by the Democrats. Conversely, though, we see this anger, this rising anger at all of these town halls. I wonder, especially for you, Michael Shure, just in a political sense, what do you think the chances are of swinging a midterm election? And is it getting our hopes up to think that we could affect change in that way?
Well, I think you have to get your hopes up, and that everything Democrats are doing, they should be doing, thinking about 2026 and winning the House back at the very least, which I think they obviously have a better shot of doing than the Senate. The Senate map is not terribly favorable to Democrats right now, and it's be for a little while. So there's always going to be a surprise. There were some surprises in this year's Senate elections. There's always, it seems, one surprise, and that surprise would go to a Democrat, because that's how stacked the deck is against them in the Senate. But the House is it's very reasonable to expect a change in some of these House seats, in some of the districts that are still a little bit more swingy. But they've been gerrymandered to a point, some of these states, where it becomes very difficult to do that. But I don't think you say, because right now the only chance of challenging this White House and its agenda, and that has to be made very clear to the American voters, is to win back part of the House. You can organize, you can do everything you need to do, and you can stand up and go to town halls. But if you can't stop legislation and you can't stop a runaway administration, you're not really going to be able to do very much. And waiting another 2 years for another election is going to be unsatisfactory to a lot of Americans. So I think that it's realistic to win the House back, and a lot changes, and a lot of the things that people are fed up about now, they might be exponentially fed up about by the time it's 2026 and they're voting in those elections. And so I don't think it's a mistake to be looking towards the 2026 elections. I don't agree with James Carville, who said we should roll over and play dead as Democrats. I don't think that's the way out either. I think you have to look at 2026 and you have to find your spots in your constituencies. Before we go, and this is out of order, but I do think we should talk about the passing of Raul Grijalva.
Actually, I wanted to read you a message that we got in the Mark mailbag. Peter Newton wrote to us saying, "It's fitting that on the night of a blood moon and rain, we lost a great friend, Congressman Grijalva. Please discuss with Michael Shure his legacy, a mutual friend of Steve Cohen. He says, I'm going to weep now."
Yeah, he's Raul Grijalva was sort of a massive figure in progressive politics before people even started saying progressive again, when they were saying liberal. He was the chairman of the Natural Resources Committee. He represented a swath of Arizona that went sort of down from Tucson all the way, I think, down to Nogales and the border there. It's a very Latino heavy district. It's certainly very blue. So there's not a risk of losing that once Governor Hobbs decides on when that special election is going to be. May even be his daughter, I think, is on a board of supervisors in Pima County. So she may, in fact, be the person who takes it over. But Grijalva ran the Progressive Caucus in Congress. He was huge on issues of the environment as they were becoming sexy issues. And he was a friend to immigrants and Native Americans. His is a voice that was often kind of quiet, but very, very steadfast in defense of those issues and those people. And he got a lot done in protecting lands around the Grand Canyon, of creating, one initiative he had was to build a monument near the Grand Canyon, not because they needed the monument, but because it would protect that land from any kind of prospective oil drilling or things like that. So it was in protection of the environment. And so he was a giant of progressive politics, a friend to Bernie Sanders, but also somebody that other presidents like Barack Obama were able to count on for issues relating to Obamacare and those typically liberal initiatives.
Before we go, I wanted to bring up Governor Gavin Newsom's new podcast. I think it's called This is Gavin Newsom, where he invites MAGA people and people who disagree with him to kind of go head to head. That's the point of the podcast, right? And he had Steve Bannon on the show. The move is getting a lot of criticism. Adam Kinzinger has come out and said he never should give people like Bannon a platform, a megaphone to amplify the lies and the things that he spews. Whereas I've heard it also said that maybe Newsom has getting a point here. If his goal is to run for president, that making a name with MAGA voters, attracting those kind of listeners, that may be what he's trying to do. Do you think it's wise for Newsom to put a hand out, an olive branch out to mega conservatives, or is that a slap in the face to Democrats and to the people in California who voted for him?
Well, I don't think it's an either or. I think having MAGA folks and confronting them is not a bad thing. His debate with Ron DeSantis destroyed Ron DeSantis. Mm-hmm. Now, he did not push back on the Bannon stuff as much as I think he should, but I don't think in general it's a bad idea to talk to these people. I don't think the idea is to get MAGA voters to suddenly vote for Gavin Newsom. I don't think that's going to happen. Well, but I think the middle, again, we got to fight for the middle. And I think what Newsom is doing is showing that he can push back, and he should, and he can appeal to not just the liberal, progressive part of the party. He's viewed nationwide. While as a strong candidate, he's viewed as too slick and not genuine. And I think that these podcasts, that's what he's trying to do, is to show that he's more than just a slick guy, that he can take these people on, and that he is genuine. So, I think it's a good idea that he do it. I think he swung and missed with Steve Bannon, but he's done better at other times.
Yeah, I agree. One of the things that Newsom said after the election was that he was going to visit every red county in California to find out. He couldn't believe how disconnected he felt from the Trump win, and whether that was politics or not, it was smart, because he's saying, I have to go listen to these people. I have to go hear what they're saying, and I think that's admirable in a politician. It also, as everything a politician does, it's generally calculated, but I think that's the business they're in, where there's a calculation, but an authenticity as well. And I think that, people who want authenticity dismiss those who seem calculated. But if you're in politics, everything is calculated, and you have to give them that ground. If you're watching professional tennis, right? Everything is about practice, and they can't do other things. They have to practice in order to win the tournament. Well, it's the same thing. I mean, these people, that's what they do for a living. And I think that it's smart of Newsom to do this. Jim's right. He totally destroyed Ron DeSantis, but he was an advocate. He wasn't a podcast host when he went at Ron DeSantis.
And so Tucker Carlson, by the way.
True. It's a little different. It's a little different when he's sitting down on his own podcast, and there has to be a sense of accommodation as well, which runs in the face of having somebody like Steve Bannon on when you're Gavin Newsom, and you don't want to accommodate that person. But that's the purpose of a podcast. It's not a forced debate.
I know I should let you guys go, but I don't want to. I'm so excited to have Jim Avila back, and I love you, Michael Shure. So let's talk for just a second as we leave about the Gitmo mistake. Trump signs an executive order saying he's going to open up Guantanamo Bay, and he's going to put migrants there that are the worst, criminal offenders. And they put big tent structures up, and there's not very many people there. And all of a sudden, they didn't say anything, but they closed it up and they shipped everybody back to America pending their deportation flights. We've seen this over and over again where they, especially with Musk, where they take a big swing and then they realize they've made a mistake and they have to hire people back or close Guantanamo Bay. Is this a mistake in governing? We've never seen anything like this. Have we seen this kind of thing before where so many things are tried and then retracted over and over again? I don't know which one wants to go first. So
I think that the whole issue of what Elon Musk is doing is the manner in which he's doing it. Like I said before, I think most Americans believe that there's too much fat in government and there should be some cuts. But there should be, he should have sent these kids in to study what's going on. And then instead of just firing them or making these decisions about Guantanamo Bay and things like that, that are done without planning and without talking to the actual people who are the experts in this area. That's what their mistake is. They overreach, and Musk thinks he's in private industry where he can do what he wants. You can't in government. And if they would have done it in a more methodical way and said he's studying it and then come out maybe, in 2 months from now and said, here's what we found. Here's the things and document what he's found. And then fire and close things and that kind of stuff. That, I think the American people would have accepted that. But just going in willy-nilly and with these kids and firing people that, and then the courts make them come back, it's total chaos, as Michael mentioned before. And I think the general public doesn't like that.
Yeah, there's a haphazard nature to it. The other thing is, while, yes, most Americans believe in the abstract that government needs to be cut, I don't think it's for very many people anyway, a single issue type of thing. And it's something that brings people out to the polls. And look, if an IRS office gets closed in Southern Illinois and it trims government, well, it also trims the number of people who have jobs there, who can go eat in the restaurants that are there and buy their clothes in the shops that are there, who can, partake in the theater that is there and buy the books from the bookstore, whatever it is. That has a trickle down effect that America is not necessarily going to embrace because it was done in such a haphazard and not measured way at all, and not without a great deal of forethought. I think it's going to come back to bite them. So I don't think the urgency of cutting government is the same if it's not done in a measured way, and that's what Doge has done. And yes, so Kim, what you're saying to go back to Guantanamo, it's the same type of thing. Oh, this seems like a good idea. It's also a good picture. Let's use Guantanamo and send the bums there, right? I mean, that's the kind of attitude that they have. Well, no, not everybody sees it that way.
We get some chats in here. Wes says Trump also threatened Hamas to release all the hostages now or else, and that was 3 weeks ago. Yeah, there's a lot of things that are happening as far
tariffs,
as,
by the way. What about tariffs?
Tariffs and the economy. Yesterday, as Mark mentioned, Trump was sitting next to the head of NATO, speaking of the economy and how horrible the European Union is, and calling the EU nasty. It's just more, as you say, Michael Shure, chaos. And throwing the world into chaos and I don't know if you think Trump understands that everything he says as president has a ripple effect.
Well, I think the markets showed us that this week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they definitely did. You guys, thank you so much for being here. Michael Shure, I appreciate you coming by every Friday. Jim Avila, I hope you feel better. It's so good to have you back in the mix, and so great to see your face.
Good to see you all. And Michael, I hope that we can resume our lunches at the grill.
Well, if that's a fact, I'm in. Yeah, great.
Oh, before
we don't invite Steve Lang. I don't want to invite Steve Lang, right?
Before I let Michael Shure go, I will say that it is time for 48 seconds of sports if you want to do it.
Oh, yeah, I can do 48. And Jim can stay for 48 seconds of sports.
Yeah.
A new segment we have here, Jim.
Right.
Albert, the Niners decimated, but I think it's not a bad thing. I think when you go 6-11, you let those people go and you start a little bit from scratch, even though it's going to be painful next year.
Yeah, and how much they got paid. I don't think we would have afforded any of those players.
Right. Yeah.
And they haven't even been playing for us too. So I'd rather just fresh start, all good.
Yeah, I think that's true. And is Macklin Celebrini the rookie of the year?
It's tough. Lane Hudson looks really good for the Canadiens, but
and Wolf, the goalie in Calgary as well.
I think the West Coast bias thing is going to come in big time here, and they see Lane Hudson a lot more than Macklin. But I think Macklin for pound, game for game, he missed a bunch of games, but he's still doing way more than he should already.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, that was fun. All right.
Let me add one thing on the sports thing.
Please.
The 49ers, my second favorite team, are not going to win with Brock Purdy as the quarterback. I'm sorry. He is a B- quarterback, and you need an A+ quarterback.
I'm going to RSVP no to that lunch. All right.
Okay.
All right. Bye, guys. Thank you for being here. Jim Avila and Michael Shure, everybody. Gosh, I love them both. So good. Our Fridays just got so much better because they're so good together. Albert, it is time for some entertainment, some culture blasting. What do you say?
He just got here. Michael Snyder is standing by.
Should we do news or should we go straight to Michael Snyder?
I mean, Mark isn't here, so Kim, you get the blessing of making an executive decision. So do you want to talk to yourself or do you want to?
I want to talk to Michael Snyder. Let's go to Michael Snyder. Excellent. He comes and goes. Culture Blaster Michael Snyder joins us. Michael Snyder, how are you on this Friday?
I'm okay, Kim. Can you hear me this week?
I can hear you. You sound great.
Oh, great. Well, I feel great. You know, it's Pi Day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every 314 scientists and mathematicians celebrate the day with the same numbers as the mathematical constant pi, which is approximately 3.14. And in case people don't know, you know, we have a crippled educational system here, so they probably don't, but that represents the ratio of a circle's circumference to its diameter. And since the circle's involved, and it's called pi, people celebrate by eating pie, the circular kind, I assume. I don't think square pie is on the menu today. But
No. But there are
I
deals all over the place at pie shops and pizza places. So, you know.
I endorse any reason to eat pie, but I celebrate Pie Day by getting pie-eyed. That's right. To honor Pie Day, I drink until my vision blurs.
Nice.
Although this year getting drunk could be due to the current administration, and it's also going to be a good warm-up for St. Patrick's Day, March 17th, this coming Monday. So yeah, let's enjoy the pie while we can. Maybe a nice lining of pie will protect us from blackout drinking on Monday. I have no idea. I don't know.
I thought you would come with a list of clubs and concerts and things to do on St. Patrick's.
No, because it is amateur day, and let's be honest about this. Pints of green ale. You know, I like my beer the way I like my mood, dark and nasty. I really don't endorse. I don't endorse blackout drinking. Come on, you know.
No, never. Mm-mm.
So I'm going to kick off with a little anecdote. You know, I've been in the entertainment sector and in the media for many, many years, and I can go on and on about people's credits in film, on record, in TV shows, and what have you. But I'm really not that good in recognizing them out in the wild for some reason. So I'm at the screening of the new movie Borderline this week, which was preceded by a reception on the patio behind the Brain Dead Theater in LA. And the stars, the filmmaker, and quite a few in the crew were in attendance. And I mean, unbeknownst to me, for instance, I'm sitting behind Lamorne Morris, the guy from the BMO ads and from the Zoe Deschanel sitcom New Girl, and his co-star from New Girl, Max Greenfield. They're sitting together. They're clearly friends, and they're at this screening. And I'm, you know, speaking with them in passing. I have no idea who they are until I see a selection of caption photos after the event. And the same goes for supermodel and actress Cara Delevingne, who is sitting in front of me, and I'm seeing an exceptionally beautiful woman with glowing skin, but I don't know who she is. And actually, I initially didn't realize that the woman she was talking to is the lead actress in Borderline, Samara Weaving from Ready or Not. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's like I'm blind to it in real life. Now, the most hilarious part of this, and I'm proceeding my reviews of this film Borderline and another movie that's also opening tomorrow, which is called Novocaine, or it's opening today, by saying that one of the villains in Novocaine is this very compelling actor in a goatee. And I'm thinking, this guy's good. And it turns out he's also Samara Weaving's co-star in Borderline. His name's Ray Nicholson. And he's at this meet and greet beforehand. I'm thinking, that guy looks like an actor. You know, he's got a mustache in the movie. He doesn't have a mustache in real life. Halfway through Borderline, it's like a movie and a half of this guy, Ray Nicholson. Halfway through, I go, holy crap, that's Jack Nicholson's son. It takes that long for it to register. And by the way, the apple did not fall far from the tree. People who question whether or not, art, skill, those kind of capabilities are genetic. I think they definitely are. There's no question the kid is a great actor, and he's got a great career ahead of him. And he got a double feature opening today with Novocaine and Borderline, both in theaters. But shall we get to the movies proper?
Let's do it. What's first?
Okay. I'm having already delivered a very taut ghost story called Presence in January, filmmaker Steven Soderbergh's second movie to be released this year. And it's just a month and a half later, roughly, is entitled Black Bag. And it is a bag of goodies indeed. Very witty and very stylish, with kind of a postmodern era mixing look and a vibe that evokes very literate British espionage movies from the 60s and early 70s, like the Harry Palmer films, The Ipcress File and Funeral in Berlin, which were based on Len Deighton's novels, and similar in ways to John le Carré's Traitor in Our Midst books, like The Spy Who Came In From the Cold and Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, that kind of stuff. So those specific references, particularly to the Harry Palmer films, take on even greater weight with the inter-office spy agency betrayal and romantic sub-Black Bag. And also the fact that lead actor Michael Fassbender, who is currently starring in the Brit spy TV show The Agency, is turned out in this movie, Black Bag, to look very much like the actor who played Harry Palmer back in the day, Michael Caine, including the horn-rimmed glasses and, you know, the turtlenecks. And it's like clearly a choice that was made with deliberation. But Fassbender's character in Black Bag, George Woodhouse, is a married man, unlike the bachelor Palmer. In fact, George is married to another agent of the British Secret Service, Catherine, and she just happens to be played by Kate the Great Blanchett. And, you know, I mean, talk about loaded for bear. In fact, this movie boasts a kind of a dream cast for this sort of project. You've got Tom Burke of the great TV shows The Musketeers and CB Strike, Naomi Harris, who is Miss Moneypenny in the Daniel Craig Bond movies, Regé-Jean Page, Bridgerton heartthrob, Marissa Abella, who convincingly embodied Amy Winehouse in the recent biopic Back to Black. All of them are great, and all of them play agents or analysts at MI6. And are you ready? One of the James Bonds plays one of the agency superiors, that being Pierce Brosnan. So,
cool.
You know, they knew what they were doing on the casting side for something like this.
Yeah.
So in addition to prowling around London to unearth a traitor in the organization and tracking down some of his suspects' travels out of the UK, George also throws a couple get-togethers for the suspects in tandem with his wife at their upscale flat. And that includes a dinner party that wouldn't be out of place in an Agatha Christie mystery. So the script is by the Hollywood veteran David Koepp, who runs hot and cold, kind of, with action movies, superhero stuff, and dramas in his filmography. But man, he nailed the clever, dialogue-heavy spy machinations and interpersonal conflicts here, all enhanced by Soderbergh's sure guidance from the director's chair. You know, this is for adults. This is not, you know, kiss, kiss, bang, bang. It's much cleverer than that and much more complex and thoughtful. I thought it was really good. And if you're a grown up that likes, you know, spy drama, I would recommend Black Bag, which is in theaters.
Awesome. I love it. That sounds like my kind of movie.
I think so. And I think it'll play well at home where you can chew it over too, but it's in theaters right now. And, you know, I do endorse the theater going experience, much like they referred to its value in the recent Oscar cast, right? Remember that little bit about going to the movies?
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, so let's move on. The frankly violent but often brutally funny action comedy Novocaine has the advantage of the likable, genial Jack Quaid, recently in Companion, here as Nate Kane, a nondescript bank employee who suffers from a rare but apparently real affliction. He can't feel pain. So, yeah, I mean, he doesn't even know when he's bit his tongue. So it's tough for him to eat food because he could bite his tongue off without even realizing it. Kind of crazy, huh? And again, I think this is a legit affliction. Mm-hmm. So when the bank teller at the bank where he works is kidnapped during a bank robbery, and he longs to date this woman. She's kidnapped by a brutal crew of masked miscreants. He leaps into action. Wounds, bruises, and broken bones be damned. And this it's a comedy, but it's also very, very violent. So the bank teller that Nate covets is named Sherry and is played by Amber Midthunder, who made a real splash as the Native American girl facing off against the alien assassin in the really terrific period Western installment of the Predator movie series, Predator Prey. And in a modern role, in a contemporary setting, she brings real Aubrey Plaza vibes to the part. And by the way, I did meet Ray Nicholson at the screening of Borderline, and he was incredibly nice. I shook his hand. I had to prevent myself from saying, "Hey, Ray, screw the Lakers," because, you know, like father, like son. Apparently, he's a Lakers fan, like Jack. Anyway, Nicholson brings genuine menace to his part as the vicious leader of the robbers. Plus, there are some twists that might surprise you. But the essence of Novocaine is watching Quaid as the kind-hearted, naive Nate doggedly chasing down the criminals to save Sherry while being battered around like a human piñata by villains and circumstances.
Oh, God.
Even while a pair of cops, played by Matt Walsh of Veep, love the guy, by the way, and I think Betty Gabriel, pursue Nate and the actual bad guys, while under the impression that Nate might be in league with the robbers because, why did he disappear from the scene of the robbery so quickly? He's obviously trying to do his best to save Sherry. Anyway, Nate's gamer buddy, played by Jacob Batalon, who was Peter Parker's friend in the recent Spider-Man films, tries to lend his pal some support despite the danger. And to be honest, look, I laughed as blow after blow is visited upon poor Nate. To also be honest, I cringed more than I expected. Kim, this movie is not for you. Two of my friends who are women and smart and charming and awesome company said, after looking at the trailer for Novocaine, nah, I think I'll pass up the guest pass on this one.
No.
So Novocaine is essentially a live-action cartoon wherein Wile E. Coyote is played by Jack Quaid. And the body-crushing violence that cartoon characters bounce back from hits much harder and can be far more unsettling when the target is an actual human and the violence is as graphic as it is here, movie magic aside. So I tentatively recommend it to anyone numb enough to roll with it, but I have caveats as massive and problematic as a giant safe falling on Elmer Fudd in a Warner Brothers cartoon.
You gave me what I needed in the opening sentence when you said this movie is very violent. I was out the door right then. That's it.
Novocaine is in theaters. Hey, I laughed, and I also went, yikes. I know why the girls didn't want to show.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the way it goes.
So let's move on to Borderline, which I enjoyed immensely and also has moments of violence. It is written and directed by the writer of the frankly hilarious Cocaine Bear. And this is all about a stalker who is delusional, played by Ray Nicholson, who, by the way, was also in Smile 2. And again, I had no idea. Hey, it's Jack's son. No idea. Anyway, he is a stalker of a pop superstar. It's set in the 1990s, and Samara Weaving from Ready or Not, which is a really wonderful horror comedy, by the way, plays this pop singer named Sophia. And Nicholson, for his role, is the stalker. And Sophia has a devoted bodyguard who has a cute little daughter. He's a single dad. And our stalker thinks that he's going to marry Sophia. And he does some really crazy things to get next to her. And he is so delusional, he mistakes other people that are not her for her and will woo them, off the top of his head. And he ends up being incarcerated after one of his more insane attempts to get next to her at her mansion in Hollywood. And he breaks out of the nut house, and I use that term advisedly. He breaks out of the asylum with this kind of shrinking, violent-looking woman who is also a complete psychopath. And now he is going to marry Sophia come hell or high water. And that's where things really take off as he does a home invasion with this lunatic companion from the asylum by his side. Screenwriter and director Jimmy Warden keeps all the pieces moving. It's pretty damn funny, and it's a tour de force for Ray Nicholson. If I didn't know him before I saw this movie, I know him now. There is a sequence at the very end of the film where it's just the camera on his face as the credits run, and it is absolutely brilliant. And when the movie was over at the screening, people applauded that, and they had a little Q&A, and the moderator mentioned that little scene at the end again, and people applauded like crazy. And Ray Nicholson, son of Jack Nicholson, who's had every advantage and clearly has talent, began to tear up. And it was kind of fascinating to watch that. But my personal experience watching the movie aside, I really enjoyed borderline. Interesting needle drops. They do reference the Madonna song with a cover version of Borderline. And Nicholson seems to be on a roll. And again, Samara Weaving, quite good in the part of Sophia. And just the supporting actors in general are very solid. This is actually in theaters and available for streaming on demand. I guess you can, watch it at home if you like. And I give it, a thumbs up. And I guess it was in my wheelhouse. It's about the music business. It's about the madness of celebrity, the perils of fame. I got a kick out of it. And it's amazing to see this talent blossom in the form of Ray Nicholson. And by the way, you're going to yell Nepo baby, now and again, or legacy kid. And it's funny that he faces off against Jack Quaid, another son of famous actors in Novocaine. But in both cases, these kids have talent. No question about it.
I love that you were at the premiere of this movie surrounded by stars and totally oblivious. I mean, you're definitely part of the Hollywood crowd.
Well, that's silly on the face of it. But let me tell you, I was in line behind an older man a few years ago at Gelson's in Hollywood on New Year's Eve. And he was very genial, and we're chatting about the weather. And halfway through our conversation, I go to myself, "That's Donald Sutherland." I mean, I'm having a conversation with this guy, and it took that long.
I know that right away. That's so funny.
I have no idea. I don't know. I just sort of I don't think about it. But yeah, let's move on. Opus is also kind of comedic and kind of violent. It is a movie about a pop star who has disappeared for 30 years and reemerges with a new album. He was massively popular 30 years ago, and he reemerges with a new album. And to celebrate the album, he invites a handful of media people, including a young rock writer from a magazine or a newspaper or a website, it's not really clear, to his compound in the Boondocks to hear the album and to experience a weekend with this, superstar. He's kind of a Bowie type, only a little more reclusive than Bowie was. The young writer who is at the heart of this is played by the Bears' Ayo Edebiri, and the legendary pop star is played by John Malkovich. And boy, they're having a ball here. They're having some fun. And Malkovich leans into this role with great vigor. And it turns out that in the 30 years since he disappeared from public view, he has gathered kind of a commune of sycophants, of people that love and admire him. And it's almost cult-like on this ranch, which presumes there's going to be some trouble. And sure enough, there is going to be some trouble. And there is a reason why this writer, played by Edebiri, has been among the invitees, and indeed why the other people have been invited to this listening party for this massive superstar, ostensibly beginning a comeback. And oh my God, it does crazy things, and there are issues with it. And the issues are motivations are not always really clear as to why some of these things happen. The devotion of his cult followers, you kind of get it, superstar rock musician and whatever, but their relationship and what he wants out of the situation are not made clear enough over the course of the film. And for all of the, prestidigitation of movie making and all the fun set pieces and the mystery and whatever put together by screenwriter director Mark Anthony Green, I felt it just got a little too muddy to really work totally. I'm not going to say that the character has created his own Jonestown, and make of that what you will, but it is, it does remind you of some of the cults of the past decades that we've seen in the news, except John Malkovich is playing a rock star. And by the way, the music overseen by the great Nile Rodgers of Chic, who has produced Bowie and other famous musicians, is an important part of the movie and is quite good. But I just had a tough time with it on the whole. Opus is out in theaters. I wish their motivations were a little clearer. It would have made for a better film, I think.
Not recommended?
Well, again, it's so much fun watching Malkovich, and Debary is so good that, I think this is something you might want to watch at home. And if you like it, keep watching it. But I didn't think it was great. I thought it was flawed. Let's put it that way.
Can I ask a question as to whether or not this is technically a horror movie?
It is it has horror moments. And oh, by the way, guess what? One of his acolytes, one of our superstars' acolytes, is played by Amber Midthunder. So, like Ray Nicholson, she has a double feature happening in the theaters this weekend.
Oh, okay, awesome! Look at that.
I know.
All right, watch it at home.
After wrestling with a predator, right? She's getting some good roles. Okay, here's something for the family, and I can recommend it to those who enjoy this sort of thing. It's called The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie. It is the first Looney Tunes feature film in forever. I don't know. I'm sure there's been maybe not direct to theaters, but this is in the movie theaters. And one of the sick ironies of this, and I'm sorry I use the word sick, but I'm still resentful of it. Warner Brothers greenlit, produced, prepared, and did all the post-production on Coyote versus Acme, which was a live-action cartoon mix about Wile E. Coyote suing the Acme company for defective materials. And apparently, it tested through the roof. It was great. They invested in it. But David Zaslav, who took over Warner Brothers as part of the merger with Discovery Channel, where I think he probably came up with Shark Week, giving him a lot of clout. I'm just guessing. But he has behaved like a shark in the CEO position and has spiked movies that people wanted to see that were completed for tax reasons to get the tax benefits of killing a film. Coyote versus Acme is apparently hilarious and wonderful, and they killed it. On the other hand, they did The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie, and then he refused to release it, but they did sell it to Ketchup Releasing to put it out into theaters. That, I think, is the only reason this other Looney Tunes-oriented movie that was recently made by Warner's has reached the public. People are still furious about Coyote versus Acme, Kim, that the fact that it never came out and it's still sitting on the shelf somewhere. And this guy, Zaslav, this president of Warner Discovery, has tried to actually kill it. I mean, wipe it from existence, as he did the Batgirl movie a number of years ago. So
I don't understand why they do that. It just doesn't make sense to me.
A tax break. Maybe they think it's going to fail. It'll be too expensive to do the promotion for it. But let's be straight up about this. Everything I've heard about Coyote versus Acme has been glowing. And, fans of the genre and people who want to see the business thrive in general are up in arms and continue to be up in arms. And yet, Ketchup Entertainment came in and has brought us Warner Brothers The Day the Earth Blew Up. And it is, I guess it's the first animated Looney Tunes movie that isn't like Space Jam, where you have like live action characters. This is fully animated, and it stars Porky Pig and Daffy Duck, longtime frenemies, and they are in fact adopted when they're young by a kindly farmer, and they're raised by the guy who disappears. He rides off into the sunset, leaving them the house with the admonition, just take care of the farm, boys. And an alien invasion half destroys the farm, and they're up in arms, and they have to try to figure out a way to save the earth from this alien incursion. And in the process, they team up with a scientist who is in fact Petunia Pig, Porky Pig's longtime girlfriend in the Warner Brothers shorts. And I thought this was really entertaining. And, you would think, oh, there's an alien invasion in a Looney Tunes cartoon. It's got to be Marvin the Martian. Well, it isn't. But they did a kind of a really good job here. It gets a little wacky. It's in theaters as of today, directed by Peter Braungart, with some really good voice talent, all of whom have been doing these Warner Brothers cartoon voices over the past, decade or two. Mel Blanc, who originated most of the voices, is no longer with us. But, it was good of kind. I enjoyed it for what it was. The elasticity of Warner Brothers cartoon characters is in full display here, if you know what I mean. And, there are classic vibes to it, but there are modern jokes. They're trying to earn money, so Daffy decides the best way that they can earn money is by him becoming an online influencer. And that sequence is flat out hilarious. So there are moments it begins to wear a little, it does run, about an hour and a half, the 80 minutes, 85 minutes. But I think this is a fine family pick. So there you go.
It's funny. The minute you started talking about that and flashed up that picture, I heard the music.
Yeah,
Going great.
and
Yeah.
Sure. The merry-go-round goes round, and merrily we roll along, and all those classic Warner Brothers themes. Do you know? Here's a little side note from Michael, the movie buff. They had to re-record the themes to every single Warner Brothers cartoon as part of, I guess it was in the contract for the musicians union, that every time they did another cartoon, they had to re-record the theme. So if you listen back to back to Warner Brothers cartoon themes, if you play the beginnings of back-to-back cartoons, slight differences in every performance.
So interesting. What a great tidbit of knowledge. I had no idea.
God, I know. I was going to say I'm a fountain of useless information, Kim.
You are, but that was amazing. And I think it's so interesting. Whoever designed that contract, kudos to them for giving musicians the work. Nice.
It's crazy. And of course, they over time made changes in the arrangements and stuff. But yeah, anyway, moving on, a great disappointment is The Electric State, which is a movie from the Russo brothers of Avengers Infinity Wars and Avengers Endgame and Captain America, the Winter Soldier. They have made some of the very best Marvel movies. And they took an illustrated sci-fi novel from Sweden called The Electric State, and they wanted to do a movie of it, and they have a deal with Netflix. So this was direct to Netflix, and man, it looks expensive. There is so much computer animation that obviously at this point in time is almost seamless. Plus, the star of the movie is Millie Bobby Brown, a Netflix superstar in Stranger Things, Enola Holmes and Damsel. The Enola Holmes movies are wonderful. I enjoy Damsel. She's done great stuff with Netflix. And here she plays Michelle, who is a teenage orphan who is dealing in the kind of a retro future version of the 1990s. By the way, it's like an alternate version of the 90s. Robots, initially invented by Walt Disney and his crew in the movie, become sentient and are kind of worker drones, and they revolt for their rights. So it's kind of like the 60s civil rights movement, only it's robots. And there's a war in the 90s between robots and humans, and the humans win when a scientist played by Stanley Tucci has figured out a way to create I guess doppelgangers, robots controlled by humans who can then fight off the robots, fighting fire with fire, if you will. And
sounds like a big cast.
In this all, Millie Bobby Brown's character, Michelle, loses her parents and her little brother, who's kind of a genius. And then she is shocked when a robot, because they've all been kind of banished to some compound in the Southwest, and there are big walls around it. Build the wall, keep the robots out of America. Anyway, so she is visited at night by a nice little robot based on a cartoon character her brother liked, and it seems to be in the control of her brother Christopher, who was thought to have died, a number of years ago. And she's living with this vicious kind of foster father, played by Jason Alexander of Seinfeld, of all people. And she decides she's going to find out if her brother is really out there. And so she teams up with kind of a pirate, a black marketeer played by the well-beloved Chris, I'm sorry, why am I blocked? Chris Pratt. Sorry, I was thinking about Chris Hemsworth. So Chris Pratt is in this thing. And, it's the Russos. You've got all of this talent. You've got voice actors voicing robots like Anthony Mackie. And you've got Ke Huy Quan playing a doctor in here. He's got a real career revival going on. Giancarlo Esposito, Tucci. It just doesn't work. It doesn't hang together. It's 2 hours. It's all on the screen, right? It's so much beautiful effects work, and yet for some reason it just it's just a lot of sound and fury, and you've got these talented people involved. And I was just kind of disappointed. Woody Harrelson, Brian Cox, Jenny Slate, they all provide voices of various robots that are part and parcel of this quest to find Christopher, the missing boy. Is he alive? Is he dead? Why is his consciousness in this new little robot accompanying Michelle on her odyssey into the West? It's actually written by two of the guys that the Russo brothers work with at Marvel, Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely. It just didn't fly. Anyway, there you go, buddy.
Okay, that's it. Let's recap it. You started these shenanigans with Black Bag. You said that's a really good spy movie, and you recommended Black Bag. Novocaine, you said that's very violent, but it's also funny, if not a little bit cringy. You said it's really funny, and there's great acting by Ray Nicholson. You recommended no, I'm sorry. You recommend it to people okay with violence. I got confused. Borderline, you recommend it. You said you enjoyed this movie immensely. It's made by the Cocaine Bear people, the writers, right? You said
the writer of Cocaine Bear also wrote and directed Borderline, and I thought he did a good job. You know, there's a lot of Hollywood in jokes and what have you here, and just stuff about fame that really struck me.
Yeah, this is the one. Great acting by Ray Nicholson, and you recommend it. You said it's really funny.
Yeah, and Samara Weaving also very, very good in this thing. Jimmy Warden wrote and directed. I'm curious to see what he comes up with next.
Opus, you have problems with the character development, their motivations. You said this movie didn't work totally. Great music. You said if you're going to watch it at home. Don't go to the movies for this one.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say Malkovich and Adebary are always fun to watch, and they bring their A game, but it's kind of a B- script or something.
The Day the Earth Blew Up. This is a Looney Tunes movie for the family, animated. You said it is entertaining, a little wacky, gives you some classic vibes and some modern jokes, and you recommend The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie.
It's a little long, but yeah, it worked for me.
As for The Electric State, you called it a great disappointment. It just didn't work, you said, despite the talented people involved. The Electric State, not recommended by Michael Snyder, the Culture Blaster. Sorry, The Electric State. Nope. Big X for you. And that is the Culture Blaster. You can find Michael Snyder on The Voice of San Francisco. Your writings appear there. Is it weekly?
Yeah, bi-weekly. It's thevoicesf.org, and you'll also find me right now. I'm not at my San Francisco pad. I'm in Los Angeles. I'll be running the Art Gallery Gauntlet tomorrow night. 2 amazing openings, one featuring the photography of Vivian Maier at KP Projects on La Brea. Vivian Maier, one of the lost greats of American street photography. She passed away without any kind of honors and recognition, and they dug up her photos in lockers and trunks, and she was an absolute talent. And also, it's the Mattel anniversary art show at Corey Helford Gallery here in Los Angeles, and essentially it is I guess it's the 50th anniversary of Mattel and some of Mattel's most famous toys. Maybe that's it. But I do know that I'm excited about that. And it's a big group show that honors Mattel toys. And that's the weekend for me.
How fun. Always something with you. Any sports related items on your agenda?
Well, Steph Curry hit 4,000 3-point shots. No one is even close. 4,000 last night. He got his 4,000th on his second 3-pointer, and then let the rest of the team do the win dance. And boy, they are on a roll right now since Jimmy Butler joined them as a free agent from the Miami Heat. The Warriors are the team no one wants to face in the NBA playoffs. Jonathan Kuminga came back last night. Draymond Green had a career game last night. And Steph, the greatest shooter in the history of professional basketball.
All over the place with you, from movies to streaming to sports to art galleries. You're awesome. Michael Snyder, thank you for being here. He comes and goes.
Bye-bye.
Bye. It is time to say thank you. And I want to let you know that coming up Monday on the Mark Thompson Show, Gary Dietrich will be here and David Pakman will be here. I've been trying to book this interview for a while, so I'm really excited about it. So that is Monday on the Mark Thompson Show. We got a super sticker from Peter Newton, who slaps down 20 and says, I first met Raul 22 years ago at a fundraiser for Tucson Latina Action with Barney Frank. This is Mr. Grijalva. He said, I got my first Arizona job there and later worked with him on the Dean campaign where I received walking around money from Dino D. Cancini. I don't know those people, but what a great set of memories for you. And I'm sorry about
Thank you
the loss of
so
Mr.
much.
Grijalva. Yeah, thank you for the super chat and for sharing with us. Also, Peter Newton with $2. I hope the statute of limitations has run out. Unfortunately, I don't know what that was in reference to, but thank you for the contribution. I'm listening to Reason with $5 says support Election Truth Alliance forensic audit of states forthcoming. Ooh, well, we'll have to look into that. Thank you for that. Yeah, thank you very much for that. TG with $10. Happy Friday, Mark and crew. Drop request Movado watch. Do we have that one, Albert?
I don't think it made it this year. Not this year.
No, not in there. It's the Movado watch at Sam's. No, it's a no-go. Richard Delamater, $5. He says, Dear benevolent aliens, if you can hear us, help us. Please come down and save us from ourselves because we're too effing stupid to cope. Thank you for the $5.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Much appreciated. Trevor Starr in Hollywood with a 1010. And a message to Mark. Trump likes to make announcements and announce that he's going to make an announcement in about 3 weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks or 3 weeks usually. He's going to make a big announcement.
Shout out.
Don't hold your breath. Tom Graves with $5. Trump's final excuse and reasoning will be, I was just being sarcastic. Yeah. Hopefully we won't buy it. Mark Petrie coming in with $10. Thank you for contributing to the Mark Thompson Show. Cousin Erie for $6. Voters had a choice between too little woke and a greedy racist pea grabber, and they blew it. Absolutely. And Amanda Michelle coming in with $5. Huge thank you to everyone who contributes to the show. Find us at themarkthompsonshow.com, themarkthompsonshow.com, where you can find the Patreon and the PayPal links. And huge thank you for crowdfunding this show. Again on Monday, David Pakman, Gary Dietrich, and Mark Thompson will return as well. Thanks, everybody. Have the very best weekend. I'll see you over on the After Party Live. Come subscribe. I think I'm about 50 away from 2,500. So just come click the subscribe button for me and we'll get there. Have a really good weekend. Thank you, Albert.
Thanks, Kim. And any plans this weekend?
What do we have? Mostly kids' orchestra stuff. Yeah, how about you?
I'm Shadow Stevens
Just
for the Mark
staying
Thompson
dry.
Show.
Hopefully no rain.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Albert. Bye, Shadow. Bye, Mark. Bye, everybody. Have a great weekend.